we had a conversation recently with someone from Nomadic Labs that are trying to understand time locks, which are a new feature that are going to be available after the new upcoming Tezos protocol upgrade. So Shomo, take it away.
Yep. So, so basically, in our discussion, from the discussion, what I understood is that time locks are useful in. It's not like a compulsory part of the protocol anymore. It's not a compulsory part of the protocol, as in like you don't have to use time locks in your applications. It's like a optional thing. So even if you don't use time locks, you're pretty much okay. Yeah, it's fine. The main use case for time locks is basically where uh, you don't want to expose the data before it is revealed. The reason why time locks were created or added as a feature is to uh, prevent minor extractable data value, basically, which I think it's called something different in Tezos. Uh, I forgot, it's called Baker extractable value, I think. But yeah, like it's basically the same thing as minor extractable value. So the thing is that let's say I'm making a transaction on an AMM today, like let's say Swap or Plenty, right? And my transaction will surely, in most probability, will give someone an arbitrage opportunity after me, right? Like once my transaction goes through, there might be some difference in the exchange rate from, let's say, in Q2 and Plenty or something like that, right? So people can exploit that. Like let's say the miner itself, in this case, can look at the transactions that they are including in the block, and let's say he notices my transaction and sees that, okay, once this transaction executes, there will be a disparity in the exchange rate, so they can just put in their own transaction after that and execute it. So that's one form of like uh, minor extractable value uh, uh, thing that might come into picture. But beyond that, we also have other challenges that we can solve with like with time locks and encryption in general. Encrypting the data on chain is that, let's say we are doing seal bids like in auctions, right? So in general, we have auctions where the bids are usually visible, but we might be doing sealed bids where the auction value is not visible at the point when we are putting in the auction itself. It is disclosed after, let's say, 1 hour, or whatever specified period of time it is, right? So in those situations also, time lock is pretty useful. And the thing about time lock right now, the situation that's there is to generate these time locks, right? So like the encrypted value and the key that will decrypt the value itself, you need to run some OCaml bindings, as far as I've understood. Like there are no JavaScript or Python or any client-side libraries that can generate these values for you. So it's kind of difficult right now to implement into an application, but I'm hoping that soon we'll have bindings or some library that can do this without having to depend on OCaml. So I think there's one binary executable that is available from Rodrigo from SmartPipe. He has a repository that has a binary that you can run, but it's still not a package. It's like a Linux binary that you can execute on your terminal and get a encrypted data and a key that you can then use in your contracts, basically. So yeah, in general, I think it is a pretty cool idea, like having such a feature available for developers. It's We can build pretty cool stuff with it, but currently it's a little bit difficult as of now. But soon it should be. I'm hoping that it will be much better, and people can use it in their contracts and applications.
If I may add a couple of things to this. So I would absolutely like to integrate this functionality into Consejus, to your point, Shomu, to make it easier to use. The other thing is this functionality requires specific contract implementations, right? So whereas now the validator is ordering transactions in a particular way, this functionality would allow the smart contract on its own to order transactions that it receives in a way that it sees fit. So that's where the possible MEV mitigation comes in. I think that the use case you described with the sealed bids makes a lot of sense. It's important to understand, and I feel like this wasn't part of the discussion more broadly, outside of this conversation, is that time locks work across block boundaries, meaning that if you're submitting a time locked transaction, you necessarily have to make it executable in the future, not at the same time as you're submitting it, because otherwise, what's the point? You're providing the key to unlock it immediately. So the idea is that if you're making, for example, a sealed bid on a auction that ends in a day, this makes a lot of sense. The other thing, as far as mitigating mine extractable value, specifically in the context of AMMs, I'm not sure it'll work. Looking at the type of activity we're seeing on Tezos right now and on blockchains in general, really, there are lots of arbitrage bots running around, lots. And even if you're an individual user who's looking to buy, let's say, a large volume of some token, and you want to make sure that you get the price that you want, using a time like here is kind of weird to me, because you probably just want a specific price that you are happy with that's available on AMM right now, in which case you're going to submit the operation right now. It will get arbitraged away immediately afterwards. So I haven't seen any front running transactions on Tezos so far, but it could have to do with the depth of the pools, meaning that there's not a lot of arbitrage available in general, which is why we don't see them. But yes, for the auctions, I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be really cool. It'll actually streamline the user experience as well.
Yeah, my impression is time locks help with some aspects of MEV, but they're not going to completely remove the concept of MEV. And a lot of MEV on Ethereum comes from sort of active collusion between the miners, right? So they're basically there's a parallel world where transactions are kind of settled not in ETH, but in dollars and euros. And while that hasn't come to Tezos so far, it's quite possible that it shall, right? Like the financial motivations definitely there. So I think time locks might help in certain circumstances to prevent that kind of collusion and front running. As far as I'm aware, no one's running an equivalent of flashbots on Tezos yet, but it's probably only a matter of time. And hopefully time locks help with that.